ChatGerry, stroke risk via TSI Proxy, number 1556, VPT 105, the 3rd of March 2026, Gerald C. EclaireMD Foundation, category, stroke risk. Understanding my stroke through TSI. When I arrived in Honolulu on February 28, 2026, I decided to begin self-studying epilepsy and seizures because they can occur as complications after my stroke. During the past 8 months, I have been very busy studying neuroscience, especially stroke. In the near future, instead of immediately writing formal medical research papers on epilepsy, for which I am not yet qualified, I will start keeping a learning logbook to record what I am learning about seizures and to share it with other interested patients while studying epilepsy. My mind returned to a deeper question: what exactly caused my own stroke on June 21, 2025? The answer did not begin in 2025. It began decades earlier. In 1968, when I was 21 years old, weighed 140 pounds with a BMI of 20. 10 years later, by 1978, my weight had increased to 174 pounds. By 1990, I weighed more than 200 pounds and was diagnosed with both obesity and type 2 diabetes. That diagnosis marked the beginning of many health problems. From 1990 to 2009, I relied mainly on diabetes medications and did not make major lifestyle changes. During that period, I suffered 5 heart attacks. Later, I developed kidney failure, severe neuropathy that almost required toe amputation, and diabetic retinopathy that nearly caused blindness. In 2010, when my weight reached 220 pounds and my BMI reached 31.6, I finally woke up. I shut down my high-tech business activities and focused completely on rebuilding my health. I began self-studying health, lifestyles, medicine, and pathophysiology, eventually reading more than 10,000 medical papers. Over the years, I have written more than 1,550 medical research papers related to chronic diseases, metabolic health, and certain mortality diseases. However, on June 21, 2025, despite many years of self-improvement efforts, I suffered a hemorrhagic stroke in the pontine region of my brain, which has a very high mortality rate. I survived, but the event forced me to understand stroke at a deeper level. The hidden structural damage. Through my VMT viscoplastic energy analysis, I concluded that my stroke was the result of long-term vascular damage caused by diabetes. As an engineer, I often compare this to water pipes in homes or power plants. Over time, mineral deposits accumulate along the inside walls of pipes. The pipes become stiff, brittle, and vulnerable to rupture under pressure. Cerebral blood vessels behave in a very similar way. After analyzing my metabolic history, I divided my diabetic period into 2 phases. Initial phase from 1990 to 2009 contributed about 91% of the structural vascular damage, including mainly vascular calcification. Second phase from 2010 to 2025 contributed about 9% of my recent stroke event. This means that the structural weakening of my blood vessels was largely established during the earlier 2 decades of poor metabolic control through medications alone, without meaningful lifestyle adjustments. Even though I later improved my health significantly during the second phase of 16 years through lifestyle improvements alone, without any medications, the structural scars remained. In engineering terms, this is called permanent accumulated damage or irreversibility. The immediate trigger. While diabetes created the structural weakness, the actual trigger of my stroke was acute hypertension, not chronic hypertension, at noon on June 21, 2025. My systolic blood pressure suddenly reached at 175 mmHg. Interestingly, I was never a chronic hypertension patient. Over 15 years of quarterly medical records and daily early morning measurements, my blood pressure rarely exceeded 140 mmHg. This observation revealed an important lesson: a single blood pressure reading is only a snapshot. What matters more is the long-term trajectory and the interaction between structural vascular weakness and acute blood pressure. The TSI concept. To quantify this interaction, I created a simple index called the Triggering Sensitivity Index, or TSI. TSI equals SBP dBP over 45 SBP over 120 100. In this formula, pulse pressure SBP dBP represents arterial stiffness. Systolic blood pressure SBP represents the acute mechanical load applied to the vessel wall. In engineering terms, stroke risk can be viewed as the interaction between structural weakness and applied load. Multiplication of PP and SBP, rather than their addition, amplifies stroke risk because of the blood pressure triggering effect. If vessels are stiff but pressure is low, rupture risk remains moderate. If pressure rises but vessels remain flexible, the damage may still be limited. But when stiffness and pressure rise together, the risk increases rapidly and nonlinearly. That is why the formula multiply these two terms rather than adding them. TSI is therefore not simply a blood pressure number. It is a stress amplification indicator. What my data showed, when I examined my TSI values from early 2025, I discovered something striking. My TSI reached 163 on June 14, 2025, 1 week before my stroke. During the stroke period in late June 2025, my TSI values ranged between about 112 and 104. After the stroke, my monthly TSI values gradually declined. By September 2025, they remained below 100, indicating a more stable vascular condition. My VMT energy analysis also revealed an interesting balance. Pulse pressure contributed about 51% of the total risk energy. Systolic blood pressure contributed about 49%. This means my current risk is almost equally determined by structural stiffness and acute blood pressure behavior, since structural damage cannot easily be reversed. Lifestyle control of blood pressure has now become my most important survival lever. A new control panel. Today, every time I measure my blood pressure, the data immediately enters my medical AI system on my iPhone screen, for the first time in my life. I feel like an airplane pilot with a real-time control panel. For 20 years, from 1990 to 2019, I was essentially flying blind under medication-only treatment. Now I can see the state of my metabolic and vascular systems each time I measure my blood pressure. That psychological shift is powerful. I finally feel that I now understand my stroke case. With the help of TSI Proxy, I have a peaceful mind about how to capture the trigger of a possible future stroke in time. After all, this has been the purpose behind my previous 250 stroke-related research papers during the past 8 months. Disclaimer: I write this paper not for fame, but to share what I have learned so others can understand their health, prevent disease, and live longer, healthier lives. This content is provided for educational reference only and does not constitute medical advice. No doctor-patient relationship is created. You may share this summary freely, but it must not be altered, edited, or republished as your own. All intellectual property rights and copyrights for this article and its related materials belong to the author, Gerald C. This content is provided for educational reference only and does not constitute medical advice. No doctor-patient relationship is created. You may share this summary freely, but it must not be altered, edited, or republished as your own. All intellectual property rights and copyrights for this article and its related materials belong to the author, Gerald C.